I feel encouraged and re-energized and unburdened. Because for about 4 years, we basically had this burden without, we've had financial help and prayer help, but when it comes right down to doing it, there haven't been a lot of people willing to say, yeah, we want to do this. And so this has been, I think, really encouraging to us. So we have a few things to cover. Maintenance of your biosand water filter. It would have been a little easier if we could have finished the project last night, but we will get the biosand water filter done. But remember that you have large stones, small stones, sand, water, air, diffuser plate. So your water rate is
measurable.
Yes, 1 liter per minute. Slower than that, 0.6 liters per minute is now the preferred rate. For years it was 1 liter per minute. So between 0.6 and 1 liter per minute. When it slows down noticeably, you take off the lid, you take out the diffuser plate, and you, the pictures say to use a spoon. I've always used my hand. I don't think it matters, but you swish the water. You scoop out the water, you throw it away. It'll be gross. And then you wash the lid, and probably I would just wash it with water. You want to get the gunk off it.
Don't use soap, please.
Don't use soap,
or
yeah.
bleach.
Or bleach. Then you put it back, and you just run water through. When your water rate is back to what it was, 0.6 to 1 liter per minute, you're ready to go. That is the only maintenance it needs for 35 years.
Amazing.
Just taking out the water?
Yeah, the
Just that
gunky
gunky
water.
stuff on the top of the sand. That's what clogs it
Take
up.
any sand
the
out?
bio
Nope.
layer.
After 35 years, then what?
Well, then you might have to replace the sand.
Del and Suzanne won't have to worry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Someone else's problem.
yeah. See, well, they didn't tell us what to do now.
No, Dale's planning on being around, but not me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, if you were going to not use it for, say, like a week or something like that, maybe you're going on vacation, or maybe for some reason you were going to be gone and you wanted the water filter to be maintained and kept active, could you reduce the outflow and not have it affect anything where you wouldn't have to have somebody filling it every day?
No, what's important is that you put fresh water in, which aerates the bacteria that's in there, and you want them to continue to thrive. After about 48 hours, they start consuming each other to the point where there's hardly anything alive in there. And so that's why you want to keep this colony very healthy.
Most places, I think so far, that have these biosand water filters, I would say that it's usually not even used by a single family. That other families are coming in and filtering their water. And for sure, if you're going someplace and you ask your neighbor to come in, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
Jonathan.
Yes, Jonathan.
From a microbiological standpoint, it would seem to me that if that happened, suppose the filter for some reason or another is left unattended for a week or
Yeah.
like 2 weeks. It would seem to me that if you just restarted the filter and let it go for 10 days like you did at the beginning and just not touch the water.
It would be
for the first 10
fine.
days,
That's
it would
going
resume
to
its original state.
reestablish
Is that
the
true?
Yes.
reestablish the colony.
In that case, would you, if it had been standing, would you scoop out that layer since it's like old and dead and dry or something, and then start the 10-day?
I think I'd start putting the water in, and if the water flow rate was okay, I'd just leave it. Everything is contingent on the water flow rate. So, and Jenny, Jenny just found some new information that's very interesting that I'm making sure Cost knows. I'll just tell you, and then when it comes out, you'll go, oh yeah. If you put metal filings between the layers of rock, iron filings, you almost get 99% reduction immediately.
Pathogenic bacteria.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you put iron filings where?
Just above the top layer of gravel between that and the sand. And about
So we'll
about
send
2
you-
inches of that.
We'll send you the email about it.
Is that due to an ionic charge or something?
Ask Jenny, she's the,
She's the hydrologist.
yeah. Our basic understanding is it works or it doesn't work.
It's not ionic, it's ironic.
There you go.
So, in your cartoons, there's a picture of how to do maintenance there. The other thing that
Thank you.
The other thing we haven't touched on is storing treated water safely. And basically, you want to put your new water, your clean water, into a clean container. And then you want to store it with something you can put a lid on. Yes.
I just want to be clear about this, because this was one thing that, my perception of this changed after hearing this. I had assumed that the water tank stood there and you took out water as you needed it, but that's not the case.
No.
You drive the water through.
Yes.
Exactly.
You collect it all in a clean container, and then
Right.
you let it rest at least an hour, then you can drive
No.
it again.
Yes, you let the filter, well, and we've never told people that.
So my original perception was that this was like the office water cooler, and that's not the case. That you need to, for the filter to work, it needs to go through all at once.
All the whole sequence.
So you put the water, the 5 liters of water in at the top, 5 liters because they found that was the best for purification. You wait for that whole 5 liters to come out the bottom. You collect it all at once in a clean container, and that's your dispensing container.
Or 20
And then
20
you let-
liters, yeah.
Then you let the
17.
chamber rest for at least an hour before you add more water. Is that correct?
That is the optimum. However, you're still going to be up in the high, close to 90% if you have to just continually use it for most of the day and then let it rest at night.
But it does have to rest at some
Yeah,
point.
at some point, yeah.
To recharge.
The
recharge.
the bacteria.
But we know at
develop.
Friends Theological College, they were running the whole drinking water for 100 students through it at one time. And no one was getting sick. So I actually don't talk about the rest period because I don't want to complicate it. And actually, there will be a rest period because nobody carries that much water to run it through.
But the point I wanted to make is you cannot just plug it and leave
No.
the head of one.
No,
on.
exactly.
Because there has to be air between the diffuser and the top of the
Right.
bottle.
Right.
Is that right?
Yes.
Right.
That's what I had not understood when I
Okay.
came.
Yeah.
So I wanted to-
Yeah, okay. The tube itself should never be plugged, and that's because you have to keep the biosand water layer always there. And so you put water in, and the same amount of water that you put in comes out the spout.
And so at night, after you have the last water come out,
Yeah,
you just leave it and go to bed?
Yeah.
It just sits there.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
It just, yeah.
Have you had any challenges having people wash the containers they're going to store the water in?
Oh, yes. It's another step in the education that the container, just because it's empty of water, doesn't mean it's clean.
Right.
And so we've been encouraging them to have a receiving container that's been rinsed out with soap or water or bleach. And then they've got that water container to use strictly for their household use or to store.
Okay, I finally found it. I knew it had to be here.
Is there bleach around?
In most countries, we found that it's near impossibility to buy it in Burundi. Evidently it's a contraband item or something, I don't know. But JIK is the primary brand in Tanzania and Kenya, Uganda.
Recently
Yes.
discovered that there's different types of bleach. Some of it contain 99.9% inactive ingredients that will form some sort of crystal if they evaporate. So,
Oh yeah, all of it creates a crystal if it's evaporated because it's chloride.
Okay, I thought, so among the bleach is the one that evaporates?
They'll all evaporate. It's just chlorine bleach is what you use.
Okay.
Yeah,
If you,
just made from salt.
if for, like in Matsalon, they do have chlorine in their water, but their water's still not clean. And so to use a biosand water filter, they need to let the water sit for 30 minutes before they run it through their filter. But that's an unusual situation, and so you don't usually go there with people. This page right here is pretty important, and I just ask before we do a lot of teaching, what is the difference between the good filter and the bad filter?
Oh, well, the bananas stored in the one, is that the picture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't want to store food on top of the filter, on top of the diffusing plate. And we have seen that, because it's cool. It makes sense, it's colder inside there.
Okay.
So we say, don't do that. The filter, I'm just going to tell you because we are really running out of time. The filter isn't level, and so all the layers are not level. There's probably too much air between the water, and there's not enough sand. The dog is drinking out of the receiving pail. There is too long of a hose on the nose. There is probably dog poop around the filter, and the lid's not on. And probably some, there's a crack in it. Anyway, so this is just sort of a good one to say, tell me what you think might be wrong. And then as they discover it, they will remember it better. The top, this is the best diagram that we have in the pictures to show people how a biosand water filter, how it's set up and how it works. And the other thing they're saying over here to the right is that you don't want to just pour your water in, you pour it in all at one time, but that you have a slow stream. You just don't go splash and splash the water out again.
And one of the other issues about receiving the water is that we try to get people to avoid using the wide open container, but use a container with a small opening, which allows for less contamination, recontamination.
And then here's the picture of them doing the maintenance. And this sounds irresponsible, but we have been trying to figure out if we could shrink this small enough and laminate it, and then just somehow glue it to the biosand water filter.
You could have an artist.
Redo it, yeah.
Because over and over you will tell them how to do this, to clean the filter, then they will come back to you and say, when are we going to change the sand? And we've told them, no, we don't change the sand. Very explicitly tell them to not change the sand, but then that's the first question they've got.
But
When do we
I've
change
gotten better, because I will say, and how often do you change the sand? And they will answer back, every 35 years. And so I ask that now once a day.
And then my response is, how often do you change the sand in the spring that comes out of the hillside?
Exactly.
They can get the Maytag guy every 35 years.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Okay, Dell's going to talk a little bit about budgeting, because that is absolutely his thing. I just like to spend money.
And she makes me worry about it all the time.
I do. And I say, do you have a receipt for that? And he says, no.
Getting receipts is
I'll
terrible.
do it. Jamming
Got it.
Some countries
you,
are pretty good about writing receipts for everything. And like in Burundi, it's a terrible imposition.
And we take receipts, but it's still a problem.
Yeah. And so anyway, we in Kenya they have a VAT tax, so the government likes to know how much money is being spent so that they collect it. The basic cost, the biggest cost, of course, travel is going to always be your big upfront expense as far as that's concerned. And then the next major expense will be for your steel mold. You spell O-U-L-D, isn't it, up north? Okay.
O-U-L-D.
Yeah. And then the other big cost is for your just general supplies. And I think we've gone through the supplies several times. Oops. And that'd be your sand, your gravel, and the tube you bought, and the cement. And so we're looking.
I'm gonna make two.
And
I'm gonna make a split here.
Okay, one of the things when we start organizing a project, we find out who we're going to be working with, and we get a leader from that group, a person that's in charge in the village or something, and they coordinate this for us as to how many people. If it's a large village, well, okay, we may need 20 people, and if it's going to be a large group like that, we're going to at least have to have 2 molds, because our production is, by all the indications, is going to be larger than producing 1 filter per day. So instead of that costing in the neighborhood of like the molds cost us $650, but I usually figure $750 because we're going to have to pay for some transportation, and so there's
It's less in India.
This would be like in Kenya.
Right.
Yeah. And a little bit, yeah, India is going to be a little bit less. And then you go to the U.S., it's going to be more. So,
do you take the molds with you? Or you
no,
have
we
them
have
fabricated
a company in Thika, Kenya, north of Kenya, that manufactures for us. And since we have a person that can manufacture, we kind of stick with them because we don't have to keep reinventing it and spending so many days to teach somebody.
If you know a country you want to, you email cost, and they will tell you who makes molds in that country and who is doing biosand water filters in that country. So there may be, I mean, anyone that wants to go to Kenya, the people email Dell. I mean, cost gives them Dell's email.
There's also a way to, you can gather air miles perhaps. You can have.
Yeah,
air miles.
If
that's.
someone can figure that
Somebody
out,
can
they
figure
can
that
tell us.
organization out. They do it in Canada. I know you can do that in Canada, but I haven't found anybody in the United States that does
No,
that.
there's only like 10 foundations in the U.S. you can do that with.
Oh, are there?
Oh, to donate
Okay.
miles to?
And
I mean, we have a complete round trip if we could figure out how to use our friends' miles, air miles. But the other thing, if you're free to travel anytime, there's certain times that going to at least Africa, and I know Mexico, there's times that are cheaper and times that are more expensive. Like right now, if you wanted to go down and fly to Kenya, it would cost you over $6,000. There's per person, round trip, and there is a window in October and November where it's $1,200.
Oh, wow. Holy moly.
Yeah, I think I paid about $1,700 to go in. Well, that was the price on April 15th, and I traveled on that price 2 weeks later.
Where do your screens, wrenches and stuff, where do you attach that to?
oh, that's under supplies, and I'll tell you.
No, I put it under tools.
Well, I didn't. Oh yeah, tools. Yeah. Okay, I've got tools there, and that comes about $200. And now I mentioned food in this. When you do a project, you're pretty well expected to feed the people at least one meal a day. That will, though, in the morning we'll have either just tea with a mundazi or some corsair to go with it. And then there will be lunch. And when we feed them, they expect to get fed meat, some meat in that. Because Mzungos have money and they expect that we should be able to provide that.
Of course, completely untrue in India.
Yeah, right.
And in fact, they fed you.
Yes, they did. Yes. But in Kenya, in Africa, it's a little different. And then also, what we have done, and I don't advise it, is if you can avoid it, is to have to pay them a daily wage for coming to your conference, to their training. Some of them expect that they are going to get that. They'll justify it by saying, well, we had to leave our work to come here. Well, as I've learned later on and being around them a little bit more, they weren't making any money before they came. So,
But on the other hand, you're paying people who are buying food. It's not like they're going to the store and buying
Yeah.
jewelry.
Yeah.
You are giving money to people that need. I mean, one family, the mother told us her son was in our group. This is the first time we've had meat in a month. And what did you pay him? 15 cents or something? I mean, it was.
yeah.
So anyway.
So anyway,
So this is, you're providing a meal for people that are coming to
they're
train.
coming into the
The
training.
training.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And try to confine it to the people that are coming. Because easily you can have all their families coming to eat. And you could end up having 400 people to feed rather than 20. So you have to put the margins down. And like I say, they think that we have a lot of money just because we happen to show up. We put money aside for wages, though, when they manufacture the filters, and after the filters are delivered and installed, then they get paid. Once they get this sequence going of getting delivered and pay, it's better than paying them beforehand, because the funds that you will be leaving them to operate their business with will be totally depleted just because they think that they ought to get paid for the time that they were there and nothing gets delivered. Or they finally don't have any money to deliver them. So you have to kind of figure this cart and horse thing out. And you're not being cruel to them by making them wait. Yes?
But why do they have to deliver them? Aren't they making them in the village where they're going to?
Well, because sometimes the village is scattered miles. You know, when you say a village, we're not talking about everybody living right next to each other. You find that more in Burundi and Rwanda, where people do tend to live in, but in Kenya, people live on the shambas, which are their farms. So you may have to load up a bicycle and get it out to them. Yes?
The way the Honduran Quakers are planning this, the labor will be donated.
That's wonderful.
Have you done that before?
When we can, yes.
So it has work to have donated
Yes.
labor.
Mhm.
The work
Yes.
is hard. It's not.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've been thinking in my mind, that the whole thing of funding the filters is hard, because we know if they're given away, they don't value it. So, but we're thinking if they work for them, then that might be the same as giving money for
Like
it.
the Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah.
You build your own water
Right.
filter and
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the projects in right by Lugulu Hospital, one of the high schools there, it's going to cost, we sell these things for 3,000 shillings, close to $50. And pretty well in all the places, that's just about what it's going to cost to manufacture it and deliver it and be able to pay these people 200 shillings a day, $2 or so a day to come and manufacture. So Or-
And again, in India, we've used a different model where people who come to work at the Lofty headquarters are all fed. I mean, you know, a lot of our budget goes to feeding the people. But people come to make their own bricks to build their houses.
Mhm.
And we're incorporating the filters into the cost of the houses. And the way the house financing goes, the people have to pay for their own foundations. The village raises money for its own foundations, and the rest, which includes the biosand water filter and the building and the roofs, is raised
Yeah.
elsewhere.
And,
But again, people come to make their own bricks. They're not being paid for the labor
Right.
to build the bricks for their own houses, but they are being fed and fed well.
and when we do these projects also, another part that's gonna continually be a cost to you, is that, and you may not wanna do this is what we've been doing though, is that filters are donated to hospitals and orphanages and clinics and so forth, and to schools. And what we found though is if we can get them to pay the transportation to the site, gives them a sense of ownership. But we raise money throughout the year to help pay for those donations and that money goes to the organization that's doing the manufacturing, so it kind of improves their market.
We've had in some ways a bad sequence of events. We just got back, we went to our annual meeting. I was up here for camp, and then 3 days later we're here for this. And so this isn't my excuse for not having our Christmas cards. But we have two different kinds of Christmas cards that basically say we are giving Friendly Water $50, and they are putting a biosand water filter in a hospital, clinic, or orphanage in your name.
Oh, that's great.
So,
Brenda Lofty does that.
yeah, and so we will probably be sending you maybe 10 or 15 Christmas cards, and then you can sell them, or, I mean, I can't do the math, so. Or maybe we should ask you how many Christmas cards you think you'd like, and you can take them to your churches or wherever. So that's one way. And if you want to raise them for Honduras, that would be fine.
So anyway, a total cost of a project, I'll just give you a rough idea. Say if we're going to have two molds, it's going to be an overall cost between, I'm going to give you a little margin over here, between $5,000 and $7,000.
Including travel.
Yeah, right.
Is that
For one
including
trip or
travel?
multiple trips?
That'd be one trip.
For both of you?
No, that'd be for two of us. It'd be like $7,000. And and then that will leave enough money also. We give them, we set up a bank account, and they have an accounting of the money each group is. We sign them up as a self-help organization within the government. And so they're valid that way to get any contributions the government may have in any programs. And then also, when we start working with the United Nations, they are a valid organization,
So,
a registered organization.
Looking through this group, and local and community government, we have a tendency to fly below the radar until the group is going, and then we encourage them to register. But we have never gone into an office and say, we're here to make biosand water.
Well,
filters.
I go to, now I do this, I go to the local chiefs in the village, and they know who I am, and the police know who I am.
But that's not like the head.
No.
And they aren't asking for bribes and stuff. Okay. Access to materials. We've always been able to find the materials, and if we don't have the right size rock, I am not kidding. People will sit for hours chipping rock. It's what they will do to have clean water. So you will, in some of our pictures, you will see people with just a sledgehammer, so we've always been able to find sand.
And little kids will break rock too.
The filters, the different scales, we know that slow sand filters are used for in some towns, but that's not our thing. Jenny could probably steer you to someone that would know more information about that. We really just know about household biosand water filters. I think Dell's played around in his head about making him bigger for, I don't know. So, we've talked about the maintenance.
Making his head bigger?
Yeah, hoping. We like to be invited into a community, but believe me, that's not a problem. We have a longer list than we can do in our lifetime or your lifetime probably. Every time Dell goes to Kenya, the list gets longer. And we can, you know.
And every time that you would be in a place, people are going to be coming, hey, can you come over to our village? Mm-hmm. But I make it, yeah, we'll come over, but if you organize something.
And we're developing a list. We have groups in India that wants us, even one in Pakistan that wants us. And it's gonna.
And like one day, one fellow come up and he says, he's quite wealthy fella, and he says we're doing projects in Madagascar. He says you'll be getting a call from us. So you know it's going to be.
Since we've been home, we've had 3 requests on the internet. Legitimate people. I just want to tell you that the second group we worked with was maybe we haven't talked enough about Eric, but Eric is our guy that runs things in Kenya when we're not there. He's a wonderful person. Works for the government, but we don't hold that against him.
His title.
He works with weights and measures, so he makes sure everything is weighing and measuring correctly, I guess. I don't see much evidence of it, but that's neither here nor there.
But they give him an office.
For government work.
At least he's got an office.
But, okay, I'm just going to take the time to tell you this story. Eric went to England to the Young Friends gathering that our daughter and son-in-law went to. So Mike and Delana and Eric became friends. So when Del was going to Kenya the first time, Delana emailed Eric, and Eric emailed Del and said, please come, we are getting typhoid from our water. And Del was only there the first trip for 2 weeks, and so he said, next time, you're on the list. So when we went back, we assumed that there would be Quakers we were working with, and we took Quaker Cove t-shirts. And I've been amiss because we do have a few Quaker Cove t-shirts for sale for $6. So I'll bring them down to the dining hall. But anyway, our friend Mrs. Jerry, Silk Spring shirts for all of them. And you know, those people wore them every single day. Some of them walked for 2 or 3 hours. They'd go home, clean their shirts, dry them out, and wear them the next day. It was unbelievable. They said, this is our uniform. So, anyway, but that group was made up of 5 different denominations, including Catholics and Quakers and Salvation Army, a local church, and Presbyterians. It was the first time in that village that the churches had ever worked together. It was so cool to be part of that, because that's part of what we see that we're doing, is bringing people together to do this project. So anyway, and that has been one of our better projects, because Eric has such a heart and such a soul, and if we have extra money, it goes to Eric, and Eric puts the filters in schools and orphanages. And if he has no money, he still takes time off from work and takes the hygiene lessons and goes to school and teaches classes, or he goes to women's groups and teaches the classes. He has probably taught maybe 5,000 people the sanitation and hygiene, because he says, now they call me Mr. Clean. And we can tell you stories about how Eric, when there was the war and the fighting, how he worked actively to bring peace. And he's a wonderful person. But that story could be multiplied in every community. There are people that carry the burden for their neighbors. So